So I'm using Sketchbook Pro here, and I'm going to just show the basic formula or principles for coming up with different cartoon characters. So let's get started here. The first thing you want to think about is shapes. So everything is made up basically of these basic geometric shapes. To circles and ovals. And you work rough. You can see here I'm not sitting there, I'm not trying to draw a perfect oval or circle or anything else. And that's what everything is basically made up of. And then from there what you do is you turn the shapes into forms. For instance, if I'm going to turn this rectangle into a form, I just simply think of the perspective and I turn that simply into a form that quickly and that simply. So with that, what you start off with is different shapes and forms to create your character. So you don't want to be worried about anything. You want to work loose. You just want to be intuitive about it when you're first starting out, because if you get too tight in the beginning, it doesn't work. Plus you don't have as much fun with it. So let me create something here with these different shapes. Now you can bend these shapes and distort them. As for instance, here I've made a triangle that's got some bends in it with these lines, and then I'll put in a shape like so. It's abstract, but it is really made up of all of these shapes that I just put down, your basic shapes. And then I'll come in here and I'm not worrying about anything right now. I'm just sort of having fun with it, putting in shapes. And I'm going to come up with a real simple design here. And as you can see, I'm just having fun with it right now. I'm connecting these shapes, and now I'll start to think about the form. This is the form of his torso, and these lines here's the center line, here's a belt line, and here is his skull in there, and I'll put in a center line there, and I'll give him a high eye line, and then I'll just put a couple eyes there. This is going to be his nose, I've decided. Has a pointy nose. And down here, as I'm looking at it and I continue working on it, I start to see everything fall into place. So now I got this character. Here's his body, his legs, gesture for the feet. And now I got to figure out where the shoulder is going to be, somewhere roughly in there. And here's the shape for his left arm. I'll put in a big shape like that for his hand. Bring this hand, his right hand, up here, and then it's going to be behind his torso. So with that, now I've got the basic framework, the big shapes and forms. And then what you do is you just start to add the smaller shapes onto the big shapes. For instance, we'll take his hand here. So we know we're going to have some fingers. I'll put in a simple shape like that. Couple lines for the fingers, and over here I'll put that shape in for his thumb. Let me make him we'll make him with 4 fingers, 1 thumb. Okay, so now we got that in. Notice that I'm still staying loose and rough. And over here, I'm going to think about the fingers on this side with the thumb coming up. So I put in these gestural suggestions of where the fingers go, and I start to flush it out. I start to realize the drawing. And I slow down. I'm in no hurry, but I'm staying loose. Can't emphasize enough how just staying loose and sketching. That's why they call it sketching. You're just sketching that line around. So now we got something a little bit more, and I'm going to have his eyebrow for this particular character. I'll have his eyebrows come up like that, and maybe some little irises on the inside for this particular model. So now it still looks very loose and everything, but now I'm thinking about here, he's got a long sleeve coat on. I put this overlapping line in front of his top arm. So this is forearm, and this line right there is very important. All the lines that come in front of the character you want to emphasize. For instance, this finger, his index finger, I'm overlapping that there. I'll flush it out a little more, and then the next finger overlapping that one, next one overlapping, and then with the cuff of his sleeve, that's wrapping around here. And now I've got it to where it's feeling three-dimensional. It's going back in space with these overlapping lines. Let me clarify that a little bit more. So you got your shape here, and here's the gesture for the arm. And here is just the big shapes. It's a cylinder. So you can pretend it's a rectangle, but a rectangle that is a cylinder, like so. And there, right there, we made it into a form, and here's some lines that are showing the direction of that cylinder, that tube. So getting back to the overlapping lines. So this is the top arm, this is the forearm. That line right here is what's letting us know that that is the form in front of the other form. Meaning that the forearm here, here's his hand, the forearm right here is in front of his upper arm. And then if you want, you can put in one more fold in there, and that is how simple you keep it. And there's some lines that show the direction if it helps you out to understand which way the form is going. Here is the heel, the hand overlapping right in there where it meets the wrist. So we'll get back to our character here. So now we'll come down and we have an understanding of the way the overlapping lines convey which way the forms are going. And then here, this will be his belt line. And note this. The belt line, I'm going to bring it down below the bottom of his sleeve, because if I ran it right up in there, it would become what is known as a tangent, and you don't want those. It's just visually not as pleasing, and it makes it much more appealing if you leave a negative space in like so. Okay, now we'll get back to, and it's whatever you want. I'm going to make him where he's got a chin right there. Here's his bottom lip. He's a happy kind of guy. There's his nose, and he's got big nostrils. And now he's starting to get flushed out a little bit more. Come down here. We'll give him a belt. You don't need to, but on this one I'm going to. Couple belt loops right there. And then I'll come off of that big shape, and I'm just breaking it down into smaller ones. I'm going to show a little bit of his stomach going over the belt line just by coming around that form. And then we'll come down to the pants, and right in here we have where the pants are stretching there. Now I know that the leg on this side is coming up into the pelvis right here. So I'll just very simply show this line in front, overlapping line, and I can put some folds in his bottom of his pants just to show it's, you know, sort of folding and binding, not binding up, just there's an overlap of all the extra clothing of his pants. The same thing here, wrapping around that foot, overlapping line to show the form, and then I'll put in a couple lines just to show the wrinkles of the pants. Okay, now we're coming down to the feet, and we're going to give them very simple shoes like so. And if I want to be able to know which way the feet are pointing exactly, it's very simple. I'm going to make them a little pigeon-toed. So this foot's going to come in a little bit that way, and this one's coming out towards us a bit that way. And with that right there, now he has sort of a pigeon-toed. And I'll make this a little straighter that way. And it gives him a little pigeon-toed feel for just the type of character he is. And then off here, when it comes to the hair, you can do it in such a variety of ways, but everything I'm keeping very simple on this character. I'm just making them up, but I'm keeping everything simple for the demonstration here. So with that in mind, here we got a character, and here's his ground plane. And there's the top of his head right there, coming in there. And, you know, here we got a very simplified character, and if you want to go in, you know, you can clean it up a little bit. Want to get rid of some of the construction lines, that's fine. But the thing that you mainly want to get out of this is the idea of staying loose and starting off with the big shapes, and then working from those big shapes into the smaller shapes for the more detailed things, as I did with the hands here. Let me show you a variety of different ways that I like to do to approach coming up with ideas and not getting too caught up and bogged down in worrying about it, I'll just start putting down big shapes like this. Give this character some long legs. See how simple I'm putting these shapes down? And then after that, now I'm thinking about the form a little bit. And there I put down one character. I'll go back to it, but I'm just thinking about the big shapes right now. I can put in a couple lines, gestures for the hands, but I'm going to keep that simple there. Now I'll come up with different shapes and proportions. So let's say on this one, I want to create a character that has a pear-shaped body, and this is the body right there, but I'm not worrying about anything right now, because all I'm doing is putting in these quick gestural lines just so I can get a sense of the proportions of the character. And I can change these at any time. That's the whole idea of working loose and rough with doing all sorts of shapes. So now we got two basic designs that I've started here, and now I'll come up with another one, playing around. I'm not sure right now what I'm going to be doing exactly, but I'm just putting these shapes on and I'm looking at it, and as I'm looking at this I'm thinking, you know what, let me try making a turtle here. And this is the gesture of one of the turtle's legs. There's another one back here. Think of this rhythm line coming over there. It makes it a little more pleasing. Same thing here. And now I'll put in a center line, working loose. Start to put in where the turtle's legs are going to go inside the shell, and this is important here. I know that a turtle there's a hole in his little home there, which is his shell, and that's where his head will be placed. And then I put the eye line there, center line here. Start to break it down into more form so I get some construction in there. Again, solidifying it a little bit more here. And then we got our basic simple shape for a turtle. I'm sure you're wondering, okay, you got these basic shapes, but I don't see, any personality in the characters or anything. After you get this done, I'll go back to this character, and you can start adding in the details of your character. This one, I'm going to give him bigger eyes than the ones before, more expressive. He's got this ooh mouth, which gives him right there, gives us a little bit of personality. Come back here, starting from the big shape, now I'm going into the smaller shapes. Comes up there, I'm going to make that straight. As his back of his head will go directly in there. And understand, it's endless as far as how many designs you can come up with. So I'm going to give this guy, he's going to have a short sleeve shirt. We'll make it like a t-shirt. His hair, I'm going to do something like that. And he's got this t-shirt on. We'll give it a V-neck t-shirt. Then here, he's a strange looking guy. He's got just these long stork-like legs. And we got gesture for the hand. And then his feet, we'll just make these simple little feet. And we're going to make the shirt sort of hang off. Here's the other side of this t-shirt. Overlapping line here for the hand in front of the arm. This finger, that finger. There's that finger, and here's a thumb behind there. Arm, arm. There's that finger, other one, overlapping there. And you'll note how, as I continue on, I haven't done any erasing on this. All I'm doing is flushing it out once I'm starting to realize the different shapes and forms of this character. And I just make a darker line. You can erase. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that if you're right in the middle of it, having a good time, you don't need to. You can just darken up those certain lines, because we started off light. And here we got this guy. Okay, on this one, now I'm going to go a little rounder. I'm going to make him, we'll make him like some classic cartoony. We'll make him a rabbit. So, with those simple shapes, what I've done is create other simple shapes. Those are the ears, you can tell. Center line, we'll give them those 40s classic sort of eyes that kind of pinch in. Here's the form and shape for his muzzle. Couple buck teeth. Put the mask on the face. There's his top arm. Here's his forearm again, overlapping. We'll give him some real cartoony type fingers. So I build it up on there. Couple little hairs on the side of the face. Hairs up there. Here's his neck coming down into the torso. I put this gesture right here for his right arm and hand, and I'm going to have it going away from us. So with that will mean that this is going to overlap the shapes and forms are going away from us in that direction, just slightly, nothing extreme. You see a little bit of that finger. We come down here, and then he's got a tail. Quick gestural stroke for the tail. Comes down. There's the leg, foot, and this foot, this leg is overlapping in front right here, and then this foot is coming out towards us. That foot is just basically profile. And then the ears, we just come off here. This one's got a fold in it, inside of the ear. This one's in front because his head is looking towards us. And here's the inside, roughly, of the other ear. And then right here I'll put in a couple lines just to show this muzzle, his nose coming off of his face. And what that construction is like, we got this shape, which is now an oval, and then we got the center line here, the eye line there, and this is his lower part of the face, the cheeks, and that, the center line would be somewhere like right in there, and then right here is where we got the muzzle, which is another form coming off. And then we got his nose on top of there. And there's his teeth. So you want to think about it as his, if I'm drawing down the center line, you come down the cranium, out this way a little bit for the nose, down into the neck. And that will give it the three-dimensional quality that is expected in classic character designs, animation, traditional animation. Little chin there. So, okay, we've done these two characters, and now let me zoom in here with the turtle. It makes it a little easier. So again, now we got our turtle here, and here's the center line. We're going to keep it simple. Eye line. I'm going to draw, I don't know, different kind of eyes. They're going to be sort of one unit, and I'm going to make them sort of sleepy. So there, I'm just having fun with it. The eyes are mounted on top of that form, and we'll give him couple little holes for his nose, nostrils, and then coming down here, this is where, if you want to, I own a tortoise, so I know they got this little peak on, it's like a beak on the front of their nose, and then there's the basic construction of his head, and then in here, turtle's got this sort of these lines that come down for the loose part of the neck that comes down, and then his head is coming in here and it's fitting into that hole. We want to make that hole real clear. So what we do, and then they got this little back lip here that is part of the hole that they come out of, and over here is going to be, let's see, I'm feeling this out, will be the top part of his house, his shell. And then here, we know that the legs are going to come out here. Here's the bend in the knee. This foot comes out slightly. They got these little elephant sort of toes. If you want, you can make them claws if you wanted. That's why you get the freedom to do what you want. Here's the bottom of the shell. And then over here now, this leg is going away from us. So we want to think of that leg in the form as something that is going away, and here's the far leg. And then here you got your folds in the knee. This one folds here. And then as far as the pattern of his shell, at this stage I would just keep it very simple. And then when I went into the tie down mode, I would figure that out more. A little bit of shadow on the bottom always helps to solidify your character on the ground. So there we did 3 characters, very simple, 4. But let's recap over here. What we want to do is start off again with your basic shapes, and that being triangles, squares, rectangles, ovals, circles, cylinders, and you turn those into forms. And whatever it takes, if it helps you out to put in form lines, which is what I'd done here, those are form lines going around it. If we got a form like so, and it's a tube coming down, and I just want to quickly suggest which way that form is going, those are the form lines, and we can feel it wrapping down inside and inside there, and then coming out towards us there. These are all very gestural drawings. One thing I keep trying to emphasize, the idea is not to get tight in your drawing. The idea at this stage is to stay loose, have fun with it, and explore. Just explore, explore, explore. And it is countless ways you can go about it. So if you do create one character, let's say this rabbit for example, and I wanted to do the rabbit with a, something of a different pose. There's this cranium, here's the cheeks, but on this one it's going to be a back view. And you can see me just putting these gestural lines down. There's the tail. And the neck will come up in here. That here would be on this side. There's folded ear there. And then I just start to flush it out more. His neck's catching him there. There's his torso, neck coming down out of it. The leg comes in. Here's his tail. I'll have his hands out. You do want things in silhouette. You want them to read. And if you don't like your first suggestion or gestural drawing for a particular part, like I do not like what I did with that arm there, I'm just going to simply come over here and move his arm in like so. And here is a quick, I just darken up the lines, suggest where I want the parts of the body to be. And then I just here. this ear, overlap in there, hair on the tail. And now we got, from very quickly without much heartache putting into it and worrying about it. That was pretty quick. I put down a back view of this rabbit, and then what you do is you just continue on with those shapes in this gestural form for different poses you want to find for whatever model, whatever the character is. And the main thing is I keep repeating myself, but you do not want to get too bogged down in being tight with your drawing. If you can stay loose but focused, I'm not saying that you just put down drawing or lines and stuff that don't have a particular shape in the beginning, but you want to stay loose with them as you create the different shapes and gesture of your characters. Well, I hope this helps, and good days and nights in drawing. Bye-bye.